Hi, everyone. ADV here, and Lorenzo is with me. And we've had a few sessions together, him and I. And the last time we were talking, I asked him about his eyesight because he had mentioned he healed his eyesight. And my partner wants to heal his vision as well. And so he said, "Hey, ask Lorenzo, what was his protocol? What was he doing?" And so Lorenzo was generous enough to say, let's do it live. Let's talk about it. Let's get this topic some light. And there's a lot we can do naturally and holistically for our eyesight. And personally, I see a lot of people with that LASIK surgery, doing that, which every time I see people like that, I go, wow, I think I'm brave. You're brave. Anyone putting a laser in an eye, I'm like, you're the bravest ever, because there would be no way in hell you would get a laser near my eyeball,
No.
And
It's
interesting
crazy.
because, yeah, if you've seen those people, you can see it because there's a sparkle. Have you ever seen people with LASIK and it catches the light and there's like this interesting sparkle? And there's actually a bunch of related studies that show that people who get the surgery have a higher rate of suicide, because it does something to the mind. And also there's a high preponderance of it not going according to plan, and then they're suicidal as a result. So there's a couple of different issues with that. So we want to avoid these drastic surgeries and interventions, because we have ways to heal every part, every organ in the body, including the eyes, which is an extension of the brain. So I'm glad we're bringing this topic to light, and I'd love to hear your backstory in your eyesight, and just where you came to, and like, okay, I'm done with this glasses thing, and your convictions to heal your eyes.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, first off, thank you so much for having me on your show. I know we've chatted a few times, and this is the first time we're doing it this way, so it's a great honor. So thank you so much for that. I mean, when we chatted about it, and I mentioned my eyes, your partner wasn't the only one that asked me about that. I had like tons of inquiries for people that are going, what did you do? What was the protocol? How did you do it? And I mentioned the Bates method. I mentioned a few of the exercises that I did and practiced over the years. And, it's funny that you mentioned the surgery, because it seemed to me too many people were looking for an easy answer. Like, you do these 3 things and your eyes are fixed, or, you wake up on facing south instead of north, and suddenly, you have better eyesight in the morning, or, drink more orange juice, 3 times a week, and your eyes will be better. And, and the answer is really, from what we've talked about in a lot of the healing we've done, Amanda, multidimensional in many ways. It's like, well, first off, yes, I was wearing glasses, and yes, I got pissed off, and I tried contacts and all those other things, and they were getting worse and worse. And maybe I told you a little bit about this story, but I was sitting in a field one day, and a friend of mine gave me, I don't know if you've seen those glasses with a whole bunch of pinholes in them. They only work in a lot of light. So he said, check these out, Lorenzo. And, we were sitting with Summer. I was in Toronto, I believe, just in a park, and I put it on, and then suddenly I saw a tree very clearly for the first time without my glasses, since I can remember. And, I took them off and I put them on again, and I didn't have my glasses on. Like, I took the regular prescription, what have you, as I had on at the time. And I noticed I could see, off my peripheral vision, 100% clear, like sharp as a knife, as they say. And so, that told me right off the bat something was going on, that I didn't really need glasses or prescription or surgery or what have you. I could actually see clearly when my eyesight got focused through these little pinholes. And then I studied the Bates method, and I saw, they talked about lazy muscles and lazy eyes, and what people have done by being in school too much, or reading too much, or watching too much TV, all the crazy things I did, poor diets, etc., those sorts of things. And I started, doing a lot of these exercises, and some of them you could, as you mentioned, light. I'm getting a little washed out here. It's early in the morning here in Japan, but a lot of it was getting sun in your eyes. I mean, this was one of the first things. So I'm going to backtrack. And from the time I could remember when I was a little boy, they always told me, don't look in the sun, it's dangerous. Never look at the sun, it's dangerous. You go blind if you look in the sun. My optometrist told me the same thing, don't do that. And then, of course, my feeling was, well, the sun is great. The sun is good for your eyes. The sun, seems to be what your eyes are made for. There are, lightarians, people that live on light, I've been told and heard and done stories. And, from what I've studied and saw then, I started gazing into the sun in the morning, best times, or later at night, the dawn or the twilight when it's not so strong, and allowing, if you move your eyes back and forth in front of the sun and you keep it above your eyes or below your eyes, again, the dawn's a good time, and twilight when the sun's not so strong, you find that you start to get a lot of energy put into your eyes. Now, your eyes may water at first. They may get blurry at first, but like anything else, when you're exercising a new skill, it's going to be it takes a little bit of time to get used to it. And, now when I look in the sun, I miss it. Basically, if I'm in a house and it's a cloudy day, my eyes start to feel hungry, about the best way to put it, for some sunshine. And I'll run out the door and run to a park near where I am, or run to a space between some of the homes and get some sun into my eyes every chance I get. There's other exercises which involve, blinking to the right and the left and above and below the sun. You can also roll your eyes around one way and around the other way. And these are just, get your biophotons directly from the source. Exactly, ways that our eyes are meant for absorbing energy beyond, our digestive system. So this is one of the ways that I began to heal my eyes. I had an optometrist. I told you this story too, I believe, at the time when I was getting my next set of glasses. And maybe I was in my late 20s at the time, and they were going to get worse, my eyesight. And I said, I'd read somewhere, because this was after I tried these glasses with the pinholes. I said, I've heard you could heal your eyes. Is it possible that your eyesight can get better instead of worse? And I believe I told you, he lost his mind. He started screaming at me. He got angry. He yelled at me. He told me it's impossible. I had mentioned looking in the sun, and he said, no, you go blind, you get this, you get... and I said, I've tried it, I'm all right. And he said, you'll see, you'll have that blind spot, and I've been doing it for 30 years now. And if anything, my eyes are getting clearer and brighter and sharper. So I knew, because he went crazy, there was something going on, right? That really, the fact that he was freaked out so much about that, instead of having a conversation with me, all it did was, allow me to get a little more determined to fix my eyes. So this is one way that I began to heal my eyes. Now, we can go into a lot of the deeper methods as well. I feel, when you're in school, or when you're sitting and looking at a board all the time, or TV, or now cell phones, your muscles also get lazy, because they don't practice. It's like any muscle. If you sit on your ass all day long, right, you don't walk, muscles are going to atrophy. And one of the other exercises I tried, which our viewers could do, which was very interesting, if you go to a park, you're sitting with, there's a larger vista, if you focus, let's say, on something close, like your finger, and then you focus on something far away, like a tree or a plant or a cloud, you'll notice the muscles behind your eyes exercising themselves. You'll see them getting smaller and bigger, or contracting and expanding. And that's something that we don't do if you're just staring at a screen your whole life. So again, you get a lazy eye muscle. Another exercise that works as well as, you pretend you have a pencil on the end of your nose, which is really interesting. And then you draw something with the pencil and outline. You pick a tree or a faraway building or someone playing on the swings, and you'll find, as you pretend, with your imagination, to draw an outline around something, that your muscles will contract and expand by themselves. So these are just two general ways, get more light, exercise your muscle. Obviously, you want to make sure that the mechanics of your eyes are working well. I mean, if that can get into, before we get into maybe some of the spiritual aspects, what you had mentioned earlier as well in some of the chats we've done, of course, the food you eat is very important, right? If you drink a lot of alcohol, if you smoke a lot of cigarettes, if you do a lot of pharmaceuticals, of course, your body's going to get lazy and damaged and poisoned, and that's definitely going to affect your eyesight. you don't get enough sleep, if you're stressed. I was born in the year of the rabbit. I happen to like carrots, which I've heard are good for your eyes, and I do eat them just about every day, and I have for as long as I can, and I've done juice fasts, and perhaps all of those things have helped me as well. I don't drink and I don't smoke, and I'm really careful with my diet. Organic as best I can, and all those things. Mostly vegetables, but a lot of fatty meats and fish too, which I've heard a lot of the keto stuff does work, and I can say so that it does for me. So these are all also important aspects of what can work to fix your eyes, on a physical level, let's say. Now, I think that one of the major issues, though, and I've talked about the spiritual things, and I think why most people's eyes get messed up, and I've heard most people who don't use glasses end up needing glasses around puberty. Like, that seems to be a big time in people's lives. And I think it's when, let's say, they get messed up for sexual reasons or for opposite sex reasons, or they start looking at themselves funny, or they start thinking too much. And that comes down to a choice of not wanting to see the world clearly, let's say. If you're sitting in school your whole life, you're staring at a board and they're teaching you got to be a doctor or a mechanic or an engineer or a scientist or something beyond, let's say, what your imagination would like to do for you. Like, let's say you're an artist, or let's say you're a creator, or let's say you want to be a naturopath, things that they don't really teach you as good vocations in school. You may start telling yourself secretly or deep down inside or behind that you don't want to see life clearly. Maybe you don't like the look of the teacher. Maybe you don't like what they're telling you is possible in relationships. Maybe you don't like, look at the world right now and the depression going on because of the so-called limited options people seem to be faced with, outside their own command, we'll say, or responsibility, or what's put down that way. And I would feel that's something that also really needs to be looked at, is perhaps the choices you've made in not wanting to see your life, yourself, and you clearly, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. The psychospiritual aspect that is like a compartmentalization of where your energy's at. So I know when I'm tired, how you can't see well, how it's like it's behind you, like your sight is back. And when you're alert or when you're happy, everything looks more crisp and seems more alive. So obviously it's a translation of how you're interacting with your reality. So we know that our emotions and our beliefs, which are interlinked, can do this to us. And if you're continually behaving like that, it has a physical aspect to it, because you're going to lessen the blood flow and the circulation to the eye, as well. So with every good holistic approach, you must look at the psychospiritual aspect as well as the nutritional, physical, mechanical aspects, or else that's not holistic medicine. You need to see those parts. And maybe that's the last bit of the healing. Say you take the healing to a certain level and it's just not completing. That could be the piece, that could be the part that needs to be realized.
Amanda, this is 100% why I love chatting with you. Is I talk to a lot of healers and a lot of doctors, and you're pretty much one of the only ones that seems to see the entire picture. It's why I wholeheartedly recommend your channel and what you're suggesting to anybody that has any physical ailments or even spiritual ones in their way, because it's so important. Like light, you're made of light. We are beings that come from light, let's say. And I don't want to start sounding woo-woo, but the way we see is we don't even see anything directly, right? Everything is an interpretation in the back of our head, upside down and sideways from the light that goes in. And perhaps we're seeing physical things, perhaps we're not. I've read all kinds of theories here and there, but you choose what you allow in, right? And you choose what you can see. And if you don't like life and you're just saying, hey, I don't want to see this, or I'm tired of life, I'm tired of, I don't want to see clearly because I don't think I'm beautiful, I don't think I'm handsome, I don't think I'm skinny enough, happy enough, tall enough, or whatever you get taught, obviously you'll be telling yourself that you don't want to see clearly, as you say, and so then you won't. And as I picked up my art as well, I started doing more painting and poetry around the same time I was fixing my eyes. It's something I dropped when I was a little boy, and they told me I wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant, or I was a stockbroker for a while, like all these things, which I'm not surprised my eyes went poopy, because everything I was doing, I felt poopy about my life, right? I didn't like anything, just earning money or just, chasing, physical pleasures, which a lot of us do in our 20s, let's say, of the various kinds. I'm not surprised my eyes were getting worse and worse and worse as my light was getting more and more dull and more unhappy. And, I had to look at myself. I had to see what I liked about myself. I had to see what I didn't like about myself. I had to learn to love myself. And the more I love myself, problems and all, as I can fix them now by admitting to them, also the clearer my life is becoming, so that it's not really rocket science. The clearer my sight is becoming as my life is becoming clearer, as I'm becoming clearer. Obviously, as you mentioned as well, nature is very important. I see clearer on top of a mountain than I do in the downtown cityscape. Right? I mean, what really struck me, which was interesting, is every time I go into an airport, my eyesight gets fuzzy. I don't know what's going on with airports, but the 5Gs, the Wi-Fi's, or the what have you, airports are really hard on my sight, right? Whereas I'll go outside and then everything will be clear, and I'll go inside and everything will get fuzzy. So you got to go like, what's going on with the electric smog would have something to do with it, I'm guessing.
That's an important point that a lot of people don't think about, because think about what we see. Our spectrum is within the light spectrum, and it's a very small aspect of the entire, UV spectrum. Basically, we only have a small amount that we actually see. And if you start throwing frequencies in the mix, and color is a frequency, then you have the smog, so that's like a block to that frequency hitting your eye properly, right? Like as if there was physical barrier or interference to that. And I don't know if that's been studied or really, even like I said, I don't think people even talk about this. They just throw the EMFs and the dirty electricity in there, and nobody seems to care how it affects us, and its detrimental effects. And an insect sees the world completely different than we do, because of the amount of light and the type of light that's coming in. And can you imagine what's going on with them? And they have navigation systems and things that are magnetic or electric that are being affected. I mean, we're having swarms of birds getting mixed up and falling to pavement and all kinds of stuff. And so how is that impacting our sight and our other senses when we really want to heighten them? Like if you've ever done psilocybin or any of these types of psychoactive drugs, essentially, you see more, you see other things, extra things, right? So obviously the nervous system, the way it's fine-tuned, the way it's picking up the inputs, is a result. There's an external and an internal relationship that is quite sensitive. So that's a very good point you brought up.
Yeah, you have to. It's like, if you're seeing through a soupy mix of energy, of course your life's going to get fuzzy and things are going to be unclear. I mean, if you want to fix a car, you want to fix a truck, you want to fix any engine, you can't just say, I want it working, and then, you go in with a hammer, close your eyes and start banging around and hope it works, or cut a tube here and there. You really have to understand your system. You have to set, it's the deepest part of why most people, and I wanted to have this chat, miss how to fix your eyes, is if you're not going to study yourself, you're not going to understand your own emotional background, if you're not going to understand your own emotional blockages, your own energetic systems, we only see, as you say, maybe 8% of the light or 10% of the spectrum. So, what's going on in that other 90%? I mean, even now there's a lot of light coming through my window. You can see all the dust motes floating around that you can't see. Like my ear looks clear, and then all of a sudden I'm going, oh my goodness, what's all this stuff that's almost starts blocking my vision that wasn't there until there was extra light coming in the window.
I always clean when it's sunny.
Yeah.
And usually because I'm like, oh God, I think I have to clean, because I can see everything in the sun.
Yeah, that's why people do spring cleaning, probably, right? There's more sun, they see the dirt that they didn't see in the winter, let's say. So all of that is part of how you can heal your sight, and it's a lifelong process, right? It took you, however old you are, if you're 30, 40, 20, 80, to get to where your eyes are dim. Mm-hmm. So, you're not going to snap your fingers and just walk back over 30 years of habits or 20 years of habits. It's a process, but I feel why wouldn't you want to sleep clearly if you could? It's got to be the best process possible for any of us, besides pulling out the laser and shoving it in your eyes.
And it's a reflection outward as well, because if you study iridology, which we used to as naturopaths, and they've been degrading naturopathic medicine to the basically almost useless medicine that it is now. Good job, guys, you did it. You've got naturopaths pushing vaccines. Good job. So the iridology was studying studying the iris and the changes and nuances in the filaments would tell you as a map to the body what was going on specifically. So it was or full of clues to what was going on. So, I mean, you don't even need to use the diagnostic tools that the rudimentary conventional medicine has. You could just look with your eyes and see, oh, it's left-sided. Oh, you do have parasites I can see in this organ system. That sort of thing. And we've lost a lot of these healing arts as a result, because the eye is such an incredible reflection. It's considered the window to your soul, and it's the whites of the eyes can also tell you a lot about your health and well-being. Someone had mentioned in the chat the connection to the liver and the eyes, which is discussed in the traditional Chinese medicine texts. And I talk a lot about it because people say, well, what's wrong with my eyes? I say, well, let's start with root cause organ and fix the liver. And oftentimes with the floaters, it's a liver issue. It's not an eye issue. And doing liver detox, coffee enemas, castor oil packs, magnesium, ensuring that you're not eating foods that are congesting the liver can have a huge impact on your eye health. That simple action, you could have your own eye chart. If you want to do science at home, you could print off an eye chart and just check every day, can you see better or not? And that's an important thing for people to connect with. All of the meridians and the acupuncture points, you can utilize those as well to unblock the meridians that feed and fuel the eyes from the liver and detoxify them through back into the blood.
I mean, 100%. I mean, at the same time that I was fixing my eyes, I had purchased my own Kalima board, and I gave myself hundreds of colonics. And I wanted to get out what was blocking my system from, all the bad food I've eaten in my teens and 20s, because I started doing the colonics in my 30s. And it's an unpleasant experience. And, coffee enemas, hydrogen peroxide therapy as well, food grade. I did that for a little while. Horrible experience, but it worked. Cleans up, it cleans up a lot of the poisons in your body. So there's not just one thing. If you want your eyesight to work, you've got to go through, all of these things that, Amanda's talked about, and I've recommended, some of the exercises, some extra light, definitely the psycho-spiritual aspect of things. Your organs have to be clean. I mean, it's a whole process of making sure your entire system is working well. And of course, your eyesight will work well as well.
Yeah, there's a question about blue blockers, and I just wanted to mention, you could use blue blockers if you wish, but all the screens, every screen I have, I put the nightlight feature on. So it takes the blue out of the screen, which is really straining to the eyes, to the point where I'm so comfortable with where, like, my eyes feel relaxed and comfortable when I look at screens, because they have the nightlight feature on all the time. And when I look at a screen that doesn't have that, I find it extreme. My immediate is to pull away. I don't want it in my face. It's too glaring, that blue light. So you can adjust your devices rather than wearing blue blockers all day long. I mean, I would rather wear pinhole glasses as a glasses than the blue blocker glasses, unless you're in an environment where you can't, maybe you're at work and there's fluorescent lights, or there's some LED or blue light that is just not serving you. Then you may want to invest in something like that. But for everyday use on the computer screen, you can adjust those settings very easily and avoid excessive strain. And then at a computer, you want to look away. You don't want to just look at your computer all day. I think, was it 20 minute? I think it's after 20 minutes. Was it a 20-minute rule? I don't know if you know it, but where you look away for 20 seconds, And then after another period of time, you get up. Like you don't just stay at your computer all day. So you should take breaks. You should relax your eyes. You should do breathing exercises as well to increase
100%.
oxygenation, and not just sit all day and just, focus and like do this squinting thing. Because when you do that, the muscles get imbalanced inside the eye, and that can put pressure on the orb, and then that can give you vision issues one way or another. And that's why I like the exercise where you look in all four corners. And when you find the corner that's sore, like you're feeling the stretch, then you know that that's the muscle that's not getting the opposite muscle is either getting too relaxed and the opposite one is too strained. So you want to really look into yoga for the eyes, as Lorenzo was talking about, and have a set of exercises that you do maybe at your desk. That's your break from looking at the screen, if that's your work or vocation, and just be concerned about what you're doing on a daily basis, because it's the habits that build and create the deficiencies over time. Now, you said you ate carrots, and we know vitamin A, retinol is important for the way that the carotenoids fuel the lutein part, fuel the eyes and the repair of the cells. Were there any other types of supplements or additives or things that you included into your diet that you found helped?
Well, I eat salads every day, right? I eat fresh fruit every day. I'm always going out of my way to eat lots of citrus every day. I mean, to me, it's just a matter of what you don't do is what helps your sight heal, right? I don't eat, packaged foods. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat any of the garbage that gets passed along as normal stuff. And almost always I'm cooking all my own food fresh, or my wife is, because, I won't go to restaurants because I don't trust what they put into them and sort of stuff. And every time I would eat something, fall off the train, so to speak, it would affect my eyesight drastically, for the moment. In my office, I have plants, I have windows, I have organite, all these things, and I didn't really even think about it till you mentioned it, but it's just a natural habit now where I'll look away and I'll enjoy, looking at the clouds or the plants when I'm in my office working, to make sure, keep hydrated, of course, as you're drinking there is another way to, keep your sight happy and healthy. And, good exercise, somewhere to start, I can recommend to people, and it's been working for my wife, who's had horrible eyesight because she's Japanese, and all the Japanese people wear glasses. It's crazy. I see them putting glasses on babies here. It's insane. But yeah. But I think it's because they keep them inside in school, 90% of the year, staring at things. So their eyes go, it's like, and it's just worked for her is if you have a prescription, the next time you go, get one prescription less, and then work on your eyes that way until it's working for you. It's worked for her, and she never thought it would be possible. What Amanda mentioned as well is doing the opposite. It's like, instead of squinting when you can't see, open your eyes, let more light in. At first it doesn't work, but eventually, like if you squint, you can see a little more clearly. But like you mentioned, you're damaging your systems. If you open them and let more light in, eventually that works better. Always the opposite of what you think usually is what, works best for healing yourself.
Well, because we're programmed the opposite way, because everything's inverted in this place. So we have to retune our bodies to the correct intuition point in ourselves. So then we learn to trust ourselves, and then we know, if we heal our guts, we get that gut feeling correct that something's wrong, and that we learn to trust ourselves and take action of our own minds rather than from everybody else. Like, we information gather, as people are doing here today, and then we take, and something will resonate, something will sit, and you'll go, yeah, that I need to do that. That's definitely, trust when that comes up. Like, for some people are saying it might be the LEDs. I was into LEDs for long. I thought LEDs were the greatest thing because the way it was sold is they don't get hot, and they're energy saving and all of this sort of stuff. But as I started to look into it later, I'm like, yet another scam upon us, another lie. It actually causes depression. Like, I had a bulb near my head at my desk. And I felt terrible by the end of the day and just
Really?
low energy, quite depressed, not sure why. And once I clued in, it was my light bulb. I changed it for an incandescent and it was gone. That was it. That was the only correction I made for that. And that was quite profound for me. So, people need to reassess their lifestyles. Where are the poisons coming in? Where are the threats around them? And one by one, neutralize them and find a better solution for yourself. And be a creative person. Like make it fun. It doesn't have to be at work or a bother. Just bring the joy into it, like a childlike wonder. Like, oh, how could I make this more filled with light in here? How could I, you know, feel better in my day? By the end of the day, I feel good, not worn out, that sort of thing. And you mentioned about painting and art, and well, just behind me, there's a blue painting, and I just started painting again. And I think the last time I painted, I think the last time I painted was like 6 years ago. So I've started again because I realized that that's how I began my journey as an artist. And I went into animal care because of my compassion. And then I got pulled into the human medicine because that was the vocation I was told would, earn. But then I realized that the arts could be pulled through into the medicine. And then I fell in love with the medicine. But now it's come full circle where I'm finally expressing again. And it is quite a lift for me, for my heart, and people need that. You're right. It can't be just work all the time and struggle all the time. There has to be release, and there has to be a relief or something that you do that's joyful, that makes you feel like this is the play of life for your playground, so at the end of the day, you have a lifted heart. And that can also help you, like you said, see your world, or want to see, feel brave enough, feel strong enough to see some of the other things in your world that you haven't wanted to because you're so tired or you just can't deal with it, that sort of thing.
For sure. I mean, art is so important. I did start doing art again. You're very right about that. I recommend people start playing, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be painting, even though Amanda and I both paint. It could be singing, dancing, knitting, whatever works for you. Photography, it really doesn't matter, as long as it's something you like to see, brought to life. Then you will become naturally more curious, and your eyesight will get, a lot better in a way that just happens to grow organically for you, which obviously is something that, and another thing I want to point out, while we're chatting, is both Amanda and I have paved way for our own vocations, beyond what's possible. Amanda's been mentioning some challenges she's had. We've had challenges here. I mean, I've been sharing information to help people become free as they choose to do their own actions for 12 years now. And it hasn't been an easy path. It hasn't been a hugely abundant path. It's starting to change right now, I think, for both of us, because, we've been dedicated for a long, long time to our passions, and how, we both help the world in our ways. It's very different, but also of a similar path, or paths cross, because, we both have an idea of how to share holistically what could work for our viewers and readers and fans and customers and what have you. And the reason I'm mentioning that in relation to my eyesight is, as soon as I put my eyes on the type of path I would like to walk on, I would like to live on, I would like to grow on, then my eyes also became more clear, better, because I wanted to find, the next bit up the path. I wanted to find the next treasure, the next shiny bit, the next solution to my life, instead of going, oh no, not another day of work, and oh my goodness, sure, my salary is 10 grand a month, but can't believe I got to face these, fill in your own blanks so that I get my paycheck next week, and I really don't want to see them, and I really don't want to see that, and I really don't want to see my office. So, over and over, you're telling yourself you don't want to see what's coming. And I'm sure everybody's had those, I don't want to see this person or this job or this food or this whatever. And of course, secretly and not so secretly, you're telling yourself you want your sight to dim. I don't think people get bad sight when they get older. I think they just get tired of looking at the life they've been living. and so their sight goes. It's
And
quite the
also
opposite.
they're told stories by their white coats. They're told that it's genetics,
Mm.
or because their granddad was like that, or whatever. So they're sold the genetic lie that there's just some weird thing that you have no control over. Oh well, you just have to succumb, and that's just not true, because we know from epigenetics that your cell membrane switches on or off the genes depending on your terrain, which means you have control over your terrain, and you have control over your thoughts and emotions, which turn into chemicals in your body. So you have full control over your health and outcomes. It's not a genetic. The genetics aren't in control. They can seem like they are in some cases where the people are so degraded that where things have degraded past a point, and that means you have to do the base work first. You have to build the physical form back up nutritionally, get rid of the dead tissue, turn over new tissue. Then you have something to work with your epigenetics and your signaling again, and complete the healing. Right? Sometimes it's top down, sometimes it's bottom up approaches. And someone had mentioned doing, certain kinds of eye drops, that sort of thing. And someone else had mentioned in the chat about macular degeneration, cataracts, and that sort of thing. And I just wanted to touch on a little bit of it too, because I do make DMSO eye drops with and without vitamin C. I make a 20% and a 40%. And I've had people tell me that the side effect of them treating their floaters or their cataracts or whatnot is that they threw their glasses away.
Mm.
And in their case, a lot of it had to do with improper blood flow to the eye from muscular impingement. And if they do the eye drops and they heal their eyes, they have to move forward with things like what you're talking about, exercise and so forth, because it will just revert again if they don't get to the root cause. And now, if the root cause was tissue damage, then it's healed. But if it's not, if it's impingement, or lack of blood flow because of the muscular tightness, then it will return. So you can use the eye drops in that regard, as well as the holistic protocol that we're talking about, doing the yoga, doing the sun gazing. You can look up Hira Redtan Manak, HRM, Solar Gazing Center, Solar Healing Center, I think actually it's called. And he has a step-by-step protocol, how to begin proper sun gazing. Because if you do look at very high IV, you can get a retinal burn. I did it. I burnt my retina doing the wrong time of day for sun gazing. So there are times a day not to do it. And then someone asked me about looking at eclipses. That last eclipse we had, I looked right at it. I just didn't care. I was going for it, and I had no repercussions. But I think they warn you, because when it's right at the peak of covering over that or coming back, that first burst can really shock your eyes. So and everybody's this safety. What they've done is they've vanillaed everything. So if one person has a strange reaction, now everybody has to be treated like they could have that reaction, when it's actually quite rare. And they've done this with all kinds of safety in this world, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, for example, the vitamin K shot for children, for babies, for newborns. I mean, that was a rare disease based in a very small category of babies. And then they just blanketed that for every baby forever, like this sort of thing. So we need to be aware of where they're coming at the policies or the belief systems from, like what case or what evidence, before we just go ahead and say, okay. And then the macular degeneration, it's a nutritional problem. It's a liver issue. It's an inside job for sure. There's a lot of people with it who have like arthritis or have a lot of toxicity in the body. So you have to get on your detox protocols. But also I learned about urine therapy and the fermented urine. and you get stem cells from your first morning urine. You collect it and you ferment it for 30 days, and you strain it and you get an eye cup, and you put the fermented urine in the eye cup, and you do it each day. And that also can help regenerate eye tissue and heal the eyesight, which is quite fascinating. I haven't done any of that particular process yet. Only aged urine enemas for stem cells, but not the eyes process. So there's the DMSO eye drops. People use MMS as eye approaches in healing. Colloidal silver for things like pink eye and irritants. So there are things you can safely put in the eye, including castor oil. Castor oil helps to dissolve cataracts. DMSO obviously helps to dissolve the cataracts. You have to continue with the process. You have to use lots of internal magnesium so you don't get things stuck. I just want to quickly mention, I had a really weird case of a woman who used my eye drops, and when it moves the cataract material out, the calcium deposits out, it actually drains into the vein here, and it can actually cause a problem where the vein gets thrombosed, because it wasn't enough DMSO to actually move everything, the debris out. And I said, you need more. You need to actually use more DMSO, not less, because you need to complete the moving out of the materials. So just keep in mind, if people have this situation, you don't want to use it too low, like low strength, 10% or under. Actually, it can cause complications. So just learn, if you're wanting to heal your eyes, just figure out what protocol you want to go at, and put your due diligence in, and then follow through with it, and make sure that you're not just, like you said, one hit. I'm just hoping I put it in my eyes and it heals. That actually you're doing the whole. You're resolved to do this, and to do it properly and holistically, and not just a miracle hoping you wake up and you have sight. That's the laser illusion.
Like, trust yourself, find out what's missing in your life, find out what you would like to do. Maybe you'll have to change everything. I did. It's just the way it goes. It took you, a full lifetime of bad habits and bad ideas and bad choices and perspectives and maybe jobs to get to where you are with your eyesight. And something I've seen, it's like with cancer, and they say there's no cure for it. There's nothing but cures for cancer, right? There's nothing but cures for your eyesight. There's millions of them. Amanda and I listed maybe 50 different ways you can heal your eyesight in the last 42 minutes we've been chatting, and I'm sure there's dozens of others we haven't touched base upon. Aloe, great plant, or aloe. The Egyptians called it the food for living forever. They had a different name for it, and because that heals your guts, and maybe that will help you get more nutrition. And if you're getting more nutrition, of course, that will help your eyesight. It's like, take your pick as to where you'd like to begin. If something is wrong with your job or your health or your sight or your laziness or your diet, there's probably 1,000 ways you could begin fixing your eyes. And as she said, with the DMSO for cataracts, probably it'll be attached to 100 other maybe physical, mental, or emotional problems you're dealing with, and eventually those will cascade into a wonderment of fixing your eyes, instead of cascading towards disease, death, and destruction. You just start going in the opposite direction, and there's nothing but help out there if you really want to do something like this, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think people need to find something to motivate them. And what's happened, it seems, in this realm is pain has been the biggest motivator. Pain and suffering. Because if you did things ahead of time prophylactically, you probably wouldn't have the pain and suffering. But it seems that a lot of people let it get to that point where they're in that, they can't handle it anymore, and then they begin to look at it. But we really want to encourage preventative medicine, and loving yourself enough to acknowledge the mistakes you've made, or the pain you're in, or the suffering you're going through on another level, maybe an existential level, and try to take steps each day to move forward in a gentle manner for your life that's going to prevent a lot of these problems in the first place, rather than trying to put out fires all over town. You know, I have a lot of cases, or at least when I was taking cases, I just get wild emergency ones now. That there's so much gone wrong now, and they have to go in all of these layers just to build themselves back. And it's like the icing on the cake. If you take off the cherry and the icing, you still have a lot of cake there you can work with, right? Now you start digging into cake, and now you're on the foundation levels. You can't. How are you putting that cake back together? You know, you can't. So if it's just putting on a little bit more whipped cream on the top, that's easy. But you have your foundation. So this I see as a cultural issue of giving yourself away, or it's strange because we have a selfish problem too, but in the wrong way, in the shadow way, in the psychological unmet needs manner, where people are looking to fix that part, but they do it unconsciously, so they don't know why they're acting that way, rather than coming from self-love, in the light, which is, you know, I need to think about my boundaries. I need to think about my own care. I need to, you know, put the oxygen mask situation, where you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help someone else, kind of idea, right? How can you build yourself up so that your cup overfloweth, so then you can help others and give to others? And if more people were thoughtful like that, it would be such a different world, a very rich world, and not anything to do with dollars.
But you know, it's getting there, Amanda. I mean, if anybody watching wants to go to newagora.ca, there's tons of good information to how to make your life better. I've done videos with Amanda on the New Now, as you can see down below. You know, I've talked to Amanda many other times, other good information we've shared, and other people as well. And I also do my own In Love Unlimited love coaching. I call it getting to the heart of the matter. I've got a few customers that I'm working with, some that have some serious medical issues, which maybe I'll bring up with Amanda once we're not recording here. But what I'm really getting at is, you know, if you want to get to the heart, which will help, if you want to help with your natural path, or your supplements, you know, Amanda has some great ideas. If you want to help yourself in other ways with exercises, physical yoga, and other ways, there's other ideas, or art. There's a lot of things that can work for you if you're willing to work for yourself. And like Amanda said, and I agree, you have to be selfish, but in the right ways. You have to selfishly fix yourself, because you can't give it unless you have it, right? You can't love unless you love yourself. You can't share health unless you're healthy. And, you know, I couldn't talk about my eyesight until I'd healed it, right? So, you know, here we are, you know, sharing some beautiful things with all the lovely viewers. And I'm delighted to take any questions. If anybody has any ways that I can help them to begin on their path of better sight, I'd be happy to share what I know.
Yeah, Lorenzo is an excellent resource, and his website, if you haven't gone, I've dropped it in the show notes. Have a look around. There's so much information and resources. Just take it step by step, and you know, there's a search engine that you can use, and just find what you need, because it's all there for you. You don't need to feel compelled to go into the conventional system, because they're not going to treat you as the holistic body that you are, and the mind, spirit, all of those things. They're just going to try to pinpoint a diagnosis onto you, and suppress symptoms. And we know that time you suppress anything, that becomes a workaround has to occur in your body. And the good news is, if it comes back in the same way, then the mechanism isn't broken. But if you suppress enough, then that mechanism actually breaks, and the disease outcomes become more dire and deeper rooted. And we want to help you express your healing, which is toxin release, which is your emotional release, which is your mind, you know, talking with someone, expressing yourself. One of the things they've done with this whole scamdemic is they've isolated people considerably, and people aren't getting face to face and touch and just talking with people how you would, even I notice my awake group of friends and people, they're somehow subconsciously trained to stand too far away. And I'm always, I don't want to offend, but I'm like trying to get another, couple of inches closer here, because your heart field is, 6 feet, and we need our heart fields to entwine so we can have a real connection with people. Because what's the point of living if you have no connection? And we
Missing
see,
smiles, missing the smiles with their crazy masks. It's amazing how every now and again I'll see a real smile and my energy will light up, and you forget that you miss it because people look dour or everyone's wearing their masks when they're outside now. So it's go the opposite direction. Someone in a white coat, Amanda says, comes at you, run away. You've broken a leg or you're bleeding to death and you need some help with that kind of a mechanic. Sure, they're probably great that way, but they're coming to do anything else. I'd run as fast as you can in the opposite direction and figure something out for yourself, because those guys are monstrous in my opinion, and gals.
Oh yeah, you've heard I've gone off on them many a day, and I probably will again. But I hope that people are seeing more, pun intended, about this world. And it seems like the veil has been lifting to allow us to see more than we really have. In my lifetime, we've never gone through anything like this. And if we can pattern recognize the behaviors and the play out in our reality, then we can realize that's a game, and we can choose not to play in that arena. And we just say, oh, that's silly. That's, oh, they're trying to make war now. But it's oh, it's so silly. They're all making it up to try to do the same thing they did with this fake virus thing. It's the exact same thing. They're trying to get the digital ID and the passport and they want you enslaved, and they're going to come at it no matter what. So that's a pattern. It's the same end goal, but just different ways in. And if once you see that, you can't unsee that. And so I'm glad that they've switched on a dime with their narrative, and they're trying it again with the same end result goal. Because rub your eyes, do some eye massages and see the pattern, so that you can break free from it, because those are the shackles that keep you locked in to the illusions. You want to see clearly of what's happening, and then choose your own destiny and manifest it. And we have that power. So I look forward to what we're creating, and I feel with the painting happening again, it's like my own creative prowess has been lifting again and wanting to have a new momentum. And I feel that if we just allow for that flow inside of us to happen, and just stop getting pulled by the sensationalism and the I call it, look, squirrel, look, squirrel. We don't give away ourselves into nothing. We bring ourselves back home, and are able to create the new world that we want. Forget this dystopian, whatever, nightmare ones and zeros that they think is awesome. We don't, and we're not. And once we resolve ourselves, I think we will see and be shown the path forward, and what we should be doing.
Remember the play. Remember what it was like when you were small, when you were a little boy or a little girl, and you had your imagination flowing and you couldn't wait to get out in the day. That'll help your eyes as well. Forget their nonsense, what they tell you, your shoulds and your shouldn'ts, throw them in the garbage, in my opinion. And see what your heart has to say, follow it, enjoy your guts, enjoy your health, enjoy all of it. And the rest will come of its own if you're willing to do the hard work.
Absolutely. So any parting notes? I really, I think we've left our viewers. I'm noticing all the words that have to do with seeing as we're talking. our viewers, anything that you feel we either didn't, touch on or is important. Oh, I do have a question for you. What your process to your eyesight? So can you just tell me kind of where your eyesight was at the beginning? Were you nearsighted, farsighted? Did you have astigmatism? Like where was your eyesight at
I
the
did have
beginning?
astigmatism. I did have astigmatism, and I was nearsighted, meaning I couldn't see far away. Yeah, and it started around when I was puberty. I remember 15, my eyesight went, and then it went worse till I was about 25 to 28 when I started to fix it around then. And then I did all the things that I mentioned in this chat, and here I am right now where. The funny thing is what's interesting, the cell phones too, they mess up your eyes. I can still remember going to a shopping mall here once on a holiday. And this never happened to me here before, but it was packed just after New Year's. And I walked inside and my eyes went fuzzy immediately, and it's because, everyone's carrying their cell phone and things like that now. So I don't mean to digress from your question, but, I had the regular, usual teenage problems with nearsightedness. I guess I couldn't see far away. And it was brought on, in my opinion, by me not wanting to see the world. And, as I decided to see myself and get healthier and, go back to my art and my heart and all those exercises in the colonics and clean myself of all the stinky stuff eventually, And if anybody has any questions, yep, pardon me.
Oh, just how many years or what was the length of time until you felt like you could get rid of your glasses or not really use them?
5 to 8 years it took me of dedicated work before they were gone.
Okay.
I mean, at first I just didn't do them in sunny days. I stopped wearing my glasses, and then I wouldn't wear them and then at night I stopped, and then at the end I was just using them for driving, so to speak. So it was a process of steps, and then as I mentioned before, I went to lesser prescriptions as well. Or I would just practice, even when my sight was fuzzy at the beginning, I would still just take my glasses off and go for a walk, allow my eyes to adjust to the world, that sort of thing. So I would say it was a process of 5 to 8 years before I got rid of my glasses completely.
Okay. So it can be the long game for people, especially if it's been, for a long time that they've been wearing glasses. But I'll tell you something, those pinhole glasses are crazy. I mean, I have a little bit the same thing as you, and it's very mild, but still kind of annoying a little bit. I did heal back a lot of it through sun gazing, so I stabilized my eyes where they never get worse. They're just where they are at. And the same thing with me. It happened in my teens, and when you put those on, I have them. I forgot to bring them to show people. You can see. It's the wildest. You can see.
Crazy.
It's crazy. And I haven't had the time to look into why that works. I mean, obviously they're dark. So yes, it's a little bit annoying because you want it to be brighter. I mean, it's not like putting on glasses where it's clear. But I can see everything. And same thing with my partner. He's like, I can see wearing these things, and he looks so cool. I'm like, now you look like a rock star. There you go. Instead of the old man with the little, because he's got farsightedness, so he's got the little spectacles, right? And so he has, but they work either way. They work in either direction. So it's fascinating to me that pixelation, if you will, of the view would. Maybe it's a brain trick or something where it's like the way the input's coming, it's able to piece it together from the space, because the brain does that. It fills in the space because we have a hole in the back of our eye. So it has to actually fill in the backfill that view. But they're incredible. I highly, highly recommend the pinhole glasses. They're just phenomenal.
I think maybe our consciousness or awareness gets fractured as we get older. Instead of just focusing on the moment. I mean, maybe that's what the glasses do in the spiritual sense. When you're a child or a young lady or young man, maybe you're just focused on the moment and having fun, and you're not thinking about the future, the past. You're not worried about, your money or your bank or your relationships or your children or what have you. It's more like you're in the now and you're having fun, and so you're seeing clearly. Maybe those glasses just bring all of you into one focused moment, and allow you to tell yourself that you can, if you focus yourself maybe into everything and bring all your fractured energy into a holistic whole, that you'll be able to see clearly. That would be my take on those glasses, anyways.
Mm-hmm. Someone says this, the pinhole reduces the scatter received by the eye. Thank you for
Yeah,
that. That makes
yeah.
sense.
So I think there was, and then you can do it yourself. You reduce the scatter, of your consciousness. That
Yes.
gets fractured as you get older, right? So you bring it all. It's all part. I think you can't take one without the other. The physical and the spiritual and the holistic and the health and and all of it. And the musculature, probably all related into one. And I think it's great that we can do that. Personally, just knowing it's possible is a great step forward, in my opinion.
I agree. Okay, well, thank you. This was wonderful. I was. It's already an hour and change. That went fast. Hey.
Yeah, that did. So I
um, I,
enjoyed it.
what's that?
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me here. It's been a beautiful talk. I learned more. I always learn more than I share when I do these as well. So I get some more practices for myself by getting what you give once again. And so I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you for sharing your story and motivating people and helping them to understand that they can do this. And it's not some sort of fairy tale. It's real people having real experiences, healing their eyes, taking action in their life. So I will leave it there. And I wish everyone and all the people who have joined us today, thank you so much. And we will talk again another day. Bye, everyone.